So we now have 9 mainline Fast and Furious films. That's kind of crazy. So Fast and Furious 9 is directed by Justin Lin and stars all of our series regulars from the Fast and Furious franchise, and this time Cypher, the villain from the previous film, played by Charlize Theron, is enlisting the help of Jacob Toretto, Dom's younger brother, to take revenge on Dom and his team. So it has been a long time coming, and now we have finally got Fast and Furious 9. Obviously, with the film being announced all the way up to its release, with the pandemic pushing it back multiple times, we have been waiting a long time to watch Fast and Furious 9, along with countless other films that are slowly starting to release now as the pandemic is slowly starting to ease a little bit. And, you know, I'm a huge Fast and Furious fan. I adore this franchise, and this is a franchise that I have followed very closely. It's a franchise that I am deeply connected to, and Fast and Furious 9 was easily my most anticipated film of 2021 and also of 2020 when it was originally supposed to come out, just because I adore this franchise and I'm always excited to see where it's going to go next, what story we're going to get. And for me, now I've actually seen the film, I've seen it twice now, it was just so worth the wait. Now, before I go into the review, I would like to say this is going to be a full spoiler review. The film has been out for a little while now, and most of the things I want to talk about in this movie are discussing spoilers, so I do want to just fully warn you guys before you go into the review. If you have not seen the film, there will be plenty of spoilers in this review, so unless you don't care or you've seen the movie, welcome, or if you haven't seen the movie and you're still planning on watching it, stop here and come back after you've seen the movie. We'll still be here waiting for you. So I'll start off this review by talking about the main story of this film, which is a pretty generic Fast and Furious story at this point. I mean, they're all kind of like this, you know, you always have a thing, there's a villain, there's a MacGuffin, we have to get the MacGuffin, and blah, 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 blah. There's always that stuff. But what was interesting about this one is obviously we do have some new villains in the mix and a returning villain. Obviously Cypher, played by Charlize Theron, who was the main villain of Fast and Furious 8, or The Fate of the Furious. She returns in this film, and she is essentially trying to take revenge on Dom and the team, but she's also trying to get this MacGuffin in the movie. And then on top of that, she enlists the help of Jacob Toretto, who is Dom's long-lost brother, who we never knew about. And that all comes together in a really fun way. And yeah, it is, like I said, it's a generic Fast and Furious story. It's very similar, actually, to the story we got in Furious 7. It's pretty similar to that. But we do have the Jacob Toretto thing in the mix, which definitely added a new element to the film that they hadn't really explored before, given the fact that the franchise is so lenient on family, and that is such a big theme in all these films. To kind of bring in Dom's long-lost brother that we never knew about. It's very melodramatic, and it's very, you know, big drama and stuff like that, but at the same time, it kind of works for this movie, and I really enjoyed seeing the kind of family drama that is kind of seeping beneath the story of the film. And also the story with the MacGuffin, what I really enjoyed about that was it was a really smart way to kind of tie in Han, because obviously the big thing that was going into this film, especially for me personally, is the return of Sung Kang as Han. And I was kind of worried that Han was going to come in a really strange way. I kind of felt like they were just going to bring Han back with little to no explanation. I'm going to talk fully about Han in a minute. But what I found good about Han's return was he was kind of woven into the story. Like, kind of the reason why he comes back is because he's connected to the story in the MacGuffin that our characters are trying to get in order to progress the story. And in order to do that, it was a really smart way to weave Han back into the story and back into the family, given his death at the end of Tokyo Drift. Now let's talk about Han, because Han for me was the thing that I was most looking forward to in this movie. Outside of it just being a new Fast and Furious movie, I was hyped for the return of Sung Kang as Han. He is arguably the best character in this franchise. He's just so cool and awesome, and the fact that Sung Kang was actually returning for this movie was just mind-blowing to me. When I saw him at the end of that trailer, I literally was crying with excitement, because I just love this character and I love him so much. I love Sung Kang, and seeing him coming back, it was just so exciting. And Han in this movie, you know, unfortunately he's not in the movie as much as I would like him to be, and as much as you would think he might be, given how much the marketing kind of pushes him, which I did find surprising, because obviously, clearly based on how they marketed the film, the producers know that Han is a fan favorite character, because they did the whole Justice is Coming thing, and, you know, how they really pushed Han in the trailers and stuff. Like, clearly they know Han is a fan favorite. So he's not in the movie as much as you would think he would be, and also as much as I wanted him to be, just because I love Han and I wanted as much Han as possible. But Han is really, really good in the film when he is there. Particularly, we get a really good first couple of scenes with him, like the scene where Mia and Letty go to Tokyo to try and find him. That's a really great scene. And then what I really loved was the scene where he comes back to the safe house and we get that reunion with the whole team. And he gets to explain kind of what happened to him, why he is now alive, how he's alive. And I just thought that was really great. So even though Han isn't in the movie as much as I would have liked him to have been, he still is really great when he is there. And I just enjoyed having him as part of the family once again. Now, talking about Han's death, that was a weird one because I was always interested to see, how are they going to explain this? How are they going to get Han out of this death situation? Because he very clearly died at the end of Tokyo Drift / Fast and Furious 6. He very clearly died at the end of that film. He was in a massive car wreck and then obviously the car blew up. How do you escape that? So the reveal is that he was actually working for Kurt Russell's Mr. Nobody, and basically because he was involved in this story with the film's MacGuffin, he was going to be targeted by the people, by Cypher's people, and by Jacob Toretto's people, for basically until he was dead. So what they did was, once they found out that Deckard Shaw was coming after Dom and the family, they used that as a cover. And when they realized that Deckard was in Tokyo to take out Han, they decided to use that as a cover to fake Han's death and to allow him to live his life anonymously so that he would not be captured or killed by these other forces that were coming after him. Now, this was interesting because it brought Kurt Russell into the movie, which I did not think Kurt Russell was in this film. Obviously, he played Mr. Nobody in Furious 7 and Fate of the Furious. I didn't think he was going to be in this film, so it kind of brought him in these weird flashback scenes, which I didn't expect, but was pretty welcoming. I really liked that character, so it was cool to see him come in here. But it's interesting to see that he was actually working with Han before he even started working with Dom and the rest of the team in Furious 7. That was pretty interesting. And we also find out as well that the reason why he got in touch with Han and the reason he knows Han is because he worked with Giselle back in the day, Gal Gadot's character. We get a flashback with her and Han in this movie, which was beautiful. But it was really strange to kind of bring that character back in this way, but also kind of cool because, again, I like that character, so it was cool to see him back. But Han's death, like the way they kind of explain it is they don't. It is basically just, he was in the wreck and then Mr. Nobody pulled a magic trick and then he was fine. He got out. He wasn't actually in it. He's fine. It's basically one of those things. He survived. Don't think about it. Which, fair enough. If that's what they want to do. This is the Fast and Furious franchise. I'm on board for anything at this point. Like, if they just want to be like, oh yeah, he survived, it's fine, then I'm on board with that. It was just one of those things. I was expecting a bit more of a better explanation for his death and how he's actually alive, rather than just, oh, Mr. Nobody did this and it's fine. Because he also says in the movie, like, oh yeah, pretty good magic trick, and then he's like, oh yeah, I've done better. And that just makes me think, well, who else can we bring back? Because clearly he knew Giselle, so does that mean Gal Gadot's coming back in the future? Obviously, we've got 2 more movies in this franchise. We've got 10, we've got 11. And I have a feeling they're going to be bringing back a lot of major characters for these final 2 films. And Gal Gadot, who, when she was in Fast and Furious, she's not the name she is today. She was pretty much an unknown. Not necessarily an unknown, but, she wasn't really like a big actress when she was in the Fast and Furious franchise. But now she's freaking Wonder Woman. So, like, are they going to bring her back? That would be incredible. And I would love to see a reunion between Giselle and Han, because that would just be an amazing scene to see. But his death, like I say, it was just an interesting way. Like, they tied it sensibly back into the story, but just as a Han fan, like, I wanted to see a little bit more to it and, like, perhaps come up with a better reasoning rather than just, oh, he knew Mr. Nobody, apparently, and they kind of sorted it out. But again, it's not something that takes me out of the movie. It's not something that I'm particularly bothered about. It's just, as a Han fan, I was expecting something a little bit different. But what we did get, again, it links into the story well, and I enjoyed it for what it was. And one more point on Han, through his character, we're actually introduced to a brand new character by the name of Elle. And she was great. She was awesome. I was really impressed with this character. She comes in when Letty and Mia are looking for Han, and she saves their ass, and she's just this badass martial artist. And we've never really had a martial artist in the Fast and Furious franchise. Like, Han's a pretty good fighter, Brian was a good fighter, we've got Deckard Shaw, who's a pretty good fighter, but we've never had, like, a proper, true martial artist before, and that's what Elle brings to the team, and I thought that was really awesome. Now, is she going to be in the future movies? I really hope so, because she's great. She was at the barbecue at the end, which is obviously always a good sign. The less we talk about Deckard Shaw being invited to the barbecue, the better. But she was at the barbecue at the end, so that definitely means that, she is definitely being considered to be a part of the family. So I think she will be back in the next few films. But she was a really cool character introduction. I enjoyed her. And again, having that kind of familial connection to Han was really nice too. Now, some other returning characters we get in this are the Tokyo Drift crew. We get Sean, Twinkie, and Earl. All three of them return in this movie, and it was great to see them. Like, I really enjoyed seeing them because we haven't seen those characters since Tokyo Drift, bar a small cameo from Sean in Furious 7. We haven't seen these characters in a long, long time. However, what I found really strange about it was they're like rocket scientists now, apparently. I mean, I felt like this was a thing where the writers wanted to bring back the Tokyo Drift characters, but they didn't know exactly how to do it. So they thought, okay, well, we have a scene where we need to get the characters into intergalactic proportions, and we need characters to get them to do that. Oh, well, we'll use the Tokyo Drift characters. Again, it's not bad. It's just one of those things where I found it very strange. I was like, why these guys? Like, why? Like, the last time we saw them, they were drift racers in Tokyo, and now they're rocket scientists, apparently. I don't know. It was cool to see them, though. Again, it was really cool. I enjoyed it. It was great to see these characters again. And also, I love the ending scene, again, at the barbecue, where the Tokyo Drift characters are there at the barbecue, and then we get the reunion with Han. Like, we get a beautiful little reunion between Sean and Han. That was really great. Again, I loved having them again in the movie because it's been a long time since we've seen them, and I hope that they do return in the future films, especially Sean, because he does know Dom, and he is kind of a part of the family in some way. So I really hope he does return as well in the future. I just found the rocket scientist thing a bit of a strange choice, but again, it does work for the movie, similar to Han's death. Now, let's talk about John Cena as Jacob Toretto. Now, did I like this character? Well, I think it's pretty evident by the fact that I have his Funko Pop right here. I bought this immediately after watching the film a second time. I really liked Jacob. I thought he was great. I thought he was a really fun character because, obviously, John Cena is a really likable screen presence, in my opinion. Every movie I've ever seen him in, he's just been great. Whether it was Blockers, where you thought he was really funny, and Bumblebee, he was a great, funny villain. And I cannot wait for the end of this month when we get to see the Suicide Squad. Obviously, he's going to be Peacemaker, and he looks great in that. I just really enjoy John Cena as an actor. I think he's really great. He has a great presence. I think he's always funny, a joy to watch. And in this, he's really strong, like, especially because he has to go up against Vin Diesel, which, this kind of has similar vibes to Fast 5 when The Rock was first introduced, and we have that whole big thing of Vin Diesel versus The Rock. This was Vin Diesel versus John Cena. And, adding in the brother element, the fact this is their long-lost brother, it just created so much more tension and so much more history between these two characters, added to by these flashbacks we get in the film, which I'll talk about the flashbacks in a sec. But I really enjoyed his character overall. He's kind of this master thief, assassin. Also, of course, he's a great driver as well. And I just thought that connection between him and Dom was really what pushed this film and made it a little bit different from all the others, is that the villain of the film was way more personally connected to the characters than we had ever seen before, and I just really enjoyed that. And also another returning character we got in this film was Jordana Brewster as Mia Toretto as well. Now, when they first announced that Mia was going to be coming back in the film, I was very worried because I thought, okay, this is going to be awkward because we're going to have to address the Brian thing. And I've been very worried about that because I've been very worried about how the franchise is going to handle Brian, post Paul Walker's untimely death. But when they then showed the trailer and it was revealed that John Cena's character was Dom's brother, I thought, that makes sense. I get why she's coming back now. Because obviously if it's Dom's brother, then it's obviously Mia's brother as well. Now, Mia in this movie, I really, really liked because, even in Furious 7, which was the last film she appeared in, she didn't really do much in that movie. Like, she was pretty much sidelined the entire film because she was basically the mum now. She was looking after the kid. So she wasn't really involved in the action like she was in the earlier films. What I liked about this is that because she was away from the kids and because she was away from Brian and stuff, that was all kind of on the sideline. It's not really mentioned much outside of a couple of lines. She was able to actually get involved in the action, do stuff, and I really enjoyed that. And also because she does have that familial connection to Jacob as well, we get some really nice scenes between her and John Cena, which I really enjoyed. And, we get a little bit of a hint, she was kind of upset about what happened between Dom and Jacob, the fact that Jacob had to go away for years and just kind of, went down this dark path and whatnot. She kept in contact with him a little bit, and it's almost like they had this little special bond that perhaps Dom and Jacob never had. And I always enjoyed that little backstory there. I thought it was really great and really well done. And again, bringing Mia in, I was worried, but I think she really elevates this film and kind of made it feel a bit more classic because she is a classic Fast and Furious character who has kind of been on the sidelines in the more recent films. To kind of put her in the forefront, I really enjoyed that. Now, I mentioned a few seconds ago about the flashbacks, and yeah, the flashbacks in this movie, when they first started, because this movie opens with a flashback and then they kind of recur throughout the film, as you know, I was a little worried. I thought, okay, this franchise has never really done flashbacks before, not like this. I am very interested. Let's see how this goes. But I ended up, especially after my second viewing, I really enjoyed these flashbacks because they really felt like classic Fast and Furious. Like, I mean, I'm not someone who hates what Fast and Furious has become. I love what Fast and Furious has become. I love the fact that these big, dumb action movies. But I also love their humble beginnings, I love the racing movies, and this really harkened back to that. You have Dom and Jacob as kids kind of working on a racetrack with their dad, who we learn is like a NASCAR driver. And I really loved these scenes. They were just great, They really felt like classic Fast and Furious. They focused on the racing, they focused on the cars, and also they focused on that LA street culture that hasn't really been around since really the first movie. And it really felt like the first movie. We get a recast version of the team. Like, we get to see young Dom, we get to see young Letty, young Mia, young, obviously Jacob. We get to see loads of young characters we know and recognize just based on kind of their looks. And that was really great. And also the actor that got to play young Dom, really good. He really nailed, the kind of young Dom persona that we kind of knew back in the day. He really nails that. And, Vin Diesel has been going around saying, I'd love to make a Dom prequel film. And while I'm not enthralled by that idea, if they want to do it with this guy, I think he's more than proven himself in this film to be able to do that and take on that role. He really nailed the Dom Toretto persona. And I was just really impressed with these flashbacks because, again, I was a little bit worried about what they were going to be, but in the end, I really enjoyed them, and I think they really added to the film, and I just really felt like they really captured a specific time period of the Fast and Furious franchise that we just don't really see anymore. Now, as I said, the Fast and Furious franchise has become all about the big, dumb action, and I still absolutely love that. And the action scenes in this film were really strong as well. I don't think they're the strongest that we've seen in recent films. I don't think there's really one big standout scene in this one. I feel like in a lot of the other Fast and Furious films, like when you look at 7, it kind of has like 3 iconic, action scenes. 6 definitely has a couple, 5 has a couple. 9 doesn't really have one particular that really stands out to me. I don't think they ever really hit the level, and it might be because, the Fast and Furious franchise, it's done so much and it escalated so much to this point that it's kind of hard to top itself, really. Maybe it's a little bit of that, but the Fast and Furious franchise, it's so big now, and I feel like they're kind of struggling to almost top themselves with these new and creative action sequences. But that's not to say the action is bad in this movie. It's absolutely wonderful. It's entertaining. And again, depending on kind of how you feel about the Fast and Furious movies, depending on where your limit is with ridiculousness, will depend on how much you enjoy the action. Because if your ridiculous level is kind of down here and, you can't take much of it, you're going to hate it. If it's right up here, like mine is, you're going to enjoy it. Because obviously we do have action scenes like with the magnets, which the magnets was like an interesting thing. It just kind of happens in the movie. They just kind of show up. And then they kind of use them for the rest of the movie. And they do create some wild scenes like that, especially that you would have seen this shot in the trailer where it turns out it's Jacob Toretto's car, just goes flying through a building. That was really cool. And again, all the magnet stuff was definitely pretty inventive and really cool. And then, of course, we do have Ludacris and Tyrese go to space in this movie. It actually happens. They finally went there. They finally crossed that line. This was like, they kind of hinted at it in the trailer, and Michelle Rodriguez basically confirmed it, but actually seeing it, I was really worried about them going to space. When the whole joke went around, I was really worried about it because I was like, why would they go to space? Because it doesn't really relate to cars. And that's kind of what I love about the action scenes in Fast and Furious, is they're all car-based for the most part. You do have a couple of shootouts and you have a couple of chase sequences and what have you, but for the most part, they're usually invented around cars. And I thought, well, if we go to space, how are we going to do that? But then this movie finds a way of tying cars into it. We have a Pontiac Fiero, which basically gets turned into a little spaceship, and they just go flying off into space off the back of like a Harrier jump jet. And I was like, okay, I'm in, I'm on board, I'm sold. Like, as soon as I saw like the fact that Tyrese and Ludacris were in this little car that was going to be launched into the stratosphere, I was like, okay, they've done it. They've tied cars into it. I'm fine. I'm on board with this now. And, the space scene, it was ridiculous. It was stupid. It was over the top. And I loved every second of it. And, seeing Tyrese and Ludacris kind of in these little space suits, you have Roman and Tej, who are kind of these, they're obviously the comedic characters in the movies, and they're always paired up together. But, seeing them together in space was just like, it was just brilliant. It was hilarious. And seeing them in their little space suits, and especially that scene where they kind of get up to the International Space Station and start waving through the window and stuff. I was just so into it. I was so on board. And yeah, the space stuff, it's definitely going to be a step too far for some people. You know, I've watched a lot of reviews on F9, and this definitely isn't the most popular Fast and Furious film by any stretch, even with fans. It seems like for a lot of people, this one just went too far. But for me, like I said, my tolerance level for that is way up here. It's up in the stratosphere with Ludacris and Tyrese. It's up there. And I just absolutely fell for it. I loved it. I thought it was so funny. And again, if it hadn't had the car element to it, I think it probably might have not worked for me as well, because I would have felt like it was a stretch too far for the franchise and it doesn't really stick to its values. But given the fact that they tied the car into it, I thought, yeah, this works. This has the DNA written all over it. Now, I do want to talk about the ending of the film. We do have Jacob actually turn on Cypher and his team as they kind of reveal that, oh, we're just kind of using you. We don't need you. Once everything's done, you can go. And he then ends up teaming up with Dom and the team to take down Cypher and the crew he was working with. There is a really great line in the movie where Cypher says to Jacob, about Chairman Mao's little brother, and he just kind of looks back over his shoulder, and she's like, yeah, no one's heard of him either. And that was a really great line. But we do have Jacob eventually turn on his team and work with Dom again, and this was really great because we actually get to see him, using his driving skills to actually, you could see he's very similar to Dom in a lot of ways, and he uses all of his skills to take down this massive truck. You would have seen this in the trailer. They kind of do the Dark Knight truck flip thing where it kind of goes over like that. And that was really great. And it kind of takes out Cypher's jet that she's controlling. I actually thought for a second Cypher was actually in that jet. Obviously, it turns out she's not. She's remotely controlling it through like a VR simulation sort of thing. So Cypher will definitely be back. I'm surprised Cypher's lasted this long. Like that's one thing that does surprise me. Like Cypher, obviously she was the main villain of the Fate of the Furious. She comes back in this one, and she's going to be in the next one, and maybe even 11. So is she like the main villain of this series now? Which is pretty interesting. I didn't expect that. But there it is. And eventually ends with Dom eventually giving Jacob a second chance, giving him the keys to the Charger, and letting him go. So will we see Jacob again? Absolutely. Absolutely we'll see Jacob again. John Cena will definitely return for these movies because he's a big character in the series now, and I feel like he's definitely going to come back, and we're going to see him play a major role in the next two, or the final two installments of this series. But of course, the movie does end with its obligatory barbecue scene, and the barbecue scene was just wonderful. I've already spoken about it a little bit. Obviously, we have Elle at the barbecue, which was nice. I spoke about the reunion between between Han and the Tokyo Drift crew, which was beautiful. But the real surprise that came at the end of the film was Brian. And, this was scary because, as I said before earlier in the video, I've been very worried about how this series is going to handle Brian going forward, given the fact that obviously the actor is dead, but the character isn't. And he got such a beautiful send-off at the end of Furious 7. I was very worried about this. But I feel like in this particular scene, in this particular ending, they handled it beautifully. Perfectly. This is how they should do it. You have all the family sat around the table, and there's one empty chair there, obviously for Brian, and Mia says, oh yeah, he's on his way. And then we just see the GTR Skyline pull up to the house and park up. We don't see Brian, we don't see anyone get out the car, we just see the car pull up. Perfect. That's exactly how you should handle this. Because I don't think Brian should really make an appearance in this franchise anymore. Because you can't really... in 7 it made sense to continue the movie and to finish it, and, because that's... I think that's what he would have wanted. And, seeing the franchise continue without him, it's been sad, but I do think Paul Walker would have wanted the series to continue without him. But seeing the Skyline pull up like that was just perfect, in my opinion. The perfect way to do it. Now, I do think Brian should maybe make an appearance in, like, the final movie. Perhaps in the final barbecue scene, we should see him. If they were able to kind of agree with his family that it's okay, and, perhaps if they get his brother back in to kind of film the scene like they did in Furious 7, I think it'd be a nice way to end it. I think it would be nice to see Brian again, like, one final time before the franchise ends. But at this point in time, this scene, the way they did it, flawless. Perfect. It's exactly how they should handle it. And at least in my opinion, that's how they should handle it. And I was really satisfied with that. Because again, when I saw the Skyline, I thought, oh dear, what's happening here? And then they just kind of cut there. And I thought, okay, Perfect. Now, one final thing I will talk about is the post-credit scene for this film, which really surprised me. We see Deckard Shaw, played by Jason Statham, and he's just doing his thing. He's interrogating this guy, and it's quite a comedic scene. It's quite good. And then we see a knock at the door. And who is it? It's Sung Kang as Han. Justice is coming. Justice for Han. It's coming. This was a great post-credit scene because I did not expect, similar to Kurt Russell, I did not expect Jason Statham to be in this movie. I just thought, you know, the Hobbs and Shaw franchise is kind of doing its own thing now. Whether we see a sequel to that or not, we'll see. But I just didn't expect Jason Statham to be in this movie. And there he was in the post-credit scene. And then we have Han. Now, this is just really great because I'm just excited to see where this goes. I mean, to be fair, there is this part in the back of my head that's saying that Han is going to forgive Jason Statham and just kind of, in the same way that Dom forgave him. And it's just going to be, they're all going to be friends and going to be buddy-buddy by the next movie. But at the same time, the inner Han fan inside of me, the Justice for Han stan inside of me, is just hoping that we do get Justice for Han in the next movie with a follow-up to this scene. But the thing is, obviously, in this movie, we do kind of learn that, obviously, Jason Statham, Deckard Shaw, he didn't kill Han. Han never died that night. So, technically, does Han actually need justice? Not really. But at the same time, Deckard Shaw went to Tokyo with the intention to kill Han. And as far as he's concerned, as far as he knows, he did kill Han that night. So when he opens the door and he sees Han there, he is beyond shocked. He's seeing a ghost. He's like, "You're dead," because in his mind, in his world, he killed Han. Han is dead. It just so happens that Han actually isn't dead. He just pulled a fast one on him. So I don't know where the scene's going to go, but again, I really enjoyed it. Just kind of getting the little hint for Justice for Han in there, even if we don't really get it. You know, it's still nice to kind of get the little hint there, and I can still be excited for the next 2 years before I'm let down again. But it's still really cool to actually see it. And again, it was nice to have Jason Statham in this movie, because I do really like Deckard Shaw as a character, despite the fact that I have many issues with him, and, you know, the inviting to the barbecue I will never get over. But still, it was really cool just to kind of have him in the movie, and to have this kind of hint between this war between Han and Shaw. I'm down for it, so I'm super excited to see where this goes, whether it's in Hobbs and Shaw 2, or if we get it in Fast and Furious 10. I just can't wait to see where it goes. So there you have it, guys. There's my spoiler review of Fast and Furious 9. This video is nearly half an hour long, but as you can tell, I just love this movie. I love this franchise, and I just wanted to talk about it, you know, in spoilerific detail, because there's so much I've wanted to say about this film. For me, Fast and Furious 9, I know, as I said earlier, like, I know a lot of fans and a lot of critics just didn't like this film. It was a stretch too far for them. It kind of crossed the line for the franchise, but for me personally, I still adored this film. It's not my favorite Fast and Furious film. My next video is going to be a Fast and Furious ranking. So you will see where F9 lands on my Fast and Furious ranking. It's not my favorite film, but I still really enjoyed it, and I thought it was a great entry to the series. And in terms of films released in 2021, this is absolutely by far my favorite movie of this year. So what did you guys think about F9? Make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Are you with me? Did you love it? Or were you offended by it? Was it a step too far for you? Whatever you think, let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to see more content like this, more film reviews and film breakdowns, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any uploads from me. And I hope to see you guys again next time.